You're gonna catch me singing when the springtime comes.
Sean, it's so good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Of course.
Man, talk about this song a little bit. We were just talking about this. The lyric of this song is amazing. I love just the whole idea of Catch Me Singing. I love the title of the song. But, when I was just worshiping to this song on the way down. And, man, I love just this idea that God is cultivating things in the dark and that will one day show fruit. And it just reminded me so much of 2020, man, and everything that's going on this year. But talk about this song a little bit and just this amazing lyric.
It comes from the 2020 thing, the tension or the questions. Or I know for me personally, I've just been faced with so many new uncertainties this year and just trying to wrestle with that and wrestle with how that fits into the economy of God and God's timeline and how to map it on to God's promises, And I think that's where a lot of the lyrics came from. I don't know if so I get real I like nerd out on a few things when I find them fascinating, okay? And I don't know if you know this, but there's this huge biodome out in the desert in Arizona. And it's been around for a while, right? It's this massive, basically this perfectly constructed ecosystem, climate controlled, protected, safe, and they just test plants. So the crazy thing is, they planted these trees, and they've been growing for a while, and they actually were growing at a much quicker rate than trees out in the wild. But at a certain point, they just fell over. Not just like one or two trees, but like every single tree, they would reach a certain point and they would just topple over. And the scientists were trying to sort out what that was all about. They figured out that it was because there was no wind. There was no resistance, right? There was no tension. There was nothing that forced the roots to grow deep, right? And I think we're living in a year where we're really having to wrestle with what it means to grow. And I think, apparently God isn't always as concerned with how quickly we're growing as much as the types of things in us that are growing, And I know in my life, my reaction to tension or questions or uncertainties is to push them away as if they're going to be the thing that kills me, but that they might be the thing that's keeping me alive. Wow. And there's something about the promises of God that are able to hold all of that, because we get into uncertain times and our tendency is just to grab at these cheap promises and these cheap hopes, but then they just buckle in the face of reality. But the promises of God is that deep stuff. And what it produces in us are deep roots. And so I was trying to when you spend a year like this year and you talk to God a lot, like, where do you get out of that? And I think if you're honest, you get to a place where you remember things like you finish what you start. But with that, is inside of that promise is that good things take a little time, they go together. God's promises are not afraid of the process. They walk us through the process, but they're strong enough and buoyant enough to produce deep roots in us. So I think it makes me trust, and then it's a good thing to carry around in your pocket, the idea that He's been God for a long time.
Yeah.
We're gonna be okay. That kind of thing. He's the finish line. So I'll trust you.
Yeah, man, that's so good.